Hi, I'm Claire Cannon from The Good Reading Guide, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about fiction that teaches you something about history. I have 5 books from very different times and places. They're not historical fiction strictly speaking. They come from a variety of genres, but they do take you to these times and places and contribute something to your knowledge of the past. The first is called Tutankhamun, The Book of Shadows by Nick Drake. It's set around 1300 BC in ancient Egypt. This is actually book 2 in a series which is set in ancient Egypt, but it can be read alone as well. It's essentially a detective story around several mysterious murders. There is a little description of these murders after they've happened, but it's not too gratuitous. There is also enough development of the characters and their historical setting to give you a clear picture of the politics and the customs and the beliefs of a variety of people, from the monarch right down to humble workers. It's a fairly fast read, more a detective story than an action novel. The second is Telly by Stephen Lorehead. I really love this book. It's set in the land that is now Great Britain around 400 AD. This book is a blend of history, mythology, faith and fiction. It's the early story of Great Britain and the beginnings of the Arthurian legend. It describes a barbaric and a beautiful world. It shows the early development of Christianity as well, which is illustrated in characters who demonstrate great beauty of soul. Lorehead's heroes are real heroes. So it's both a very human and a beautifully poetic story, a grand epic. It's the first of the 5 books of the Pendragon cycle. The third book is Kristin Lorenz by Sigrid Undset. This is another epic, one that can be reread many times. This one is set in Norway in the 14th century, the Middle Ages. It's a 3-book series which is here compiled into 1 book. They really have to be read all together. Norway in the 14th century is a time and place where faith was intricately interwoven with life. Many lived a feudal life on the land, and we see the importance of family and inheritance and name in making someone's identity. This is a story about the love and enmity between people, yet it's also a familiar and human story about the decisions we face, the choices we make, and their consequences for ourselves and others. It's a world that is so far from our own, but Undset's narrative makes us feel that we've somehow learned the history of our own life. This is a life-changing book. The 4th book is Dickens' famous A Tale of Two Cities, set in France during the late 1700s, the French Revolution. It has the most famous opening lines ever. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. As with all of Dickens' novels, there is as much complexity in the characters as in their historical setting, so we really live and feel history more than just read about it. This was a terrifying time, and it's frightening to realise what human beings are capable of. Yet heroes are born in times like these, and Dickens doesn't disappoint. This is another one to be reread. And finally, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. This is a moving story of a family who live in a poorer area of Brooklyn in the early 1900s. In particular, it's the story of one girl in that family who we watch grow up in the midst of her family's struggle to survive. Life was certainly not easy. As my grandmother often says, we sometimes forget how tough things were then and how easy we have it now. But this character's spirit of survival, even more her sense of adventure in the face of hardship, makes it a richly hopeful story. It challenges and inspires you to do something with your life. You can look up our reviews for all of these books on The Good Reading Guide. Thank you for watching.